In 2014, researchers at the University of West Virginia discovered that certain Volkswagen cars emit up to 40 times the permissible levels of nitrous oxide when road tested. In 2015, the EPA accuses Volkswagen of duping diesel emissions tests using defeat devices. Volkswagen admits to installing software designed to reduce emissions during lab tests in 11 million cars worldwide. CEO Winterkorn steps down. In 2016, Volkswagen agrees to pay $14.5 billion in buybacks, compensations, and penalties. Volkswagen investors file lawsuits in German court accusing the automaker of failing to communicate the crisis. The European Commission launches legal action against 7 nations, including Germany, for failing to crack down on emissions testing. 2017, Volkswagen pleads guilty to 3 charges including fraud and agrees to pay $4.3 billion in civil and criminal fines. As part of the plea deal, Volkswagen signs up to a statement of facts in which it admits that the cheating dates back to 2006. A Michigan court sentences Volkswagen engineer James Lang to 40 months in prison and a $200,000 fine. Car parts maker Bosch, which supplied elements of the software, agrees to pay nearly $330 million to U.S. car owners and dealers, but admits no wrongdoing. Volkswagen executive Oliver Schmidt, who was arrested while on holiday in Florida, is sentenced to 7 years in jail. In 2018, Winterkorn is indicted in the U.S., accused of trying to cover up the cheating. Volkswagen agrees to pay €1 billion fine in Germany, admitting its responsibility for the diesel crisis. The scandal has now cost the group over €27 billion. Rupert Stadler, CEO of Volkswagen's Audi subsidiary, is arrested in Germany, accused of fraud, and tried to suppress evidence. In 2019, President Volkswagen Chief Herbert Diess, Supervisory Board Chairman Hans-Dieter Poetsch, and Winterkorn are charged with market manipulation. Heinz Jacob Neusser worked as the head of development and was on the management board for Volkswagen brand. He served as head of engine development for Volkswagen. Jens Hadler worked for Volkswagen as head of engine development. Richard Dorenkamp worked as the head of Volkswagen's engine development after treatment department in Wolfsburg, Germany. He led a team of engineers that developed the first diesel engine that was designed to meet new, tougher emission standards in the United States. Bernd Gottweis worked for Volkswagen as supervisor with responsibility for quality management and product safety. Oliver Schmidt, general manager in charge of environment and engineering office, located in Auburn Hills, Michigan, he returned to Volkswagen headquarters to work directly for Neusser, including on emissions issues. Jürgen Peter worked in the Volkswagen Quality Management and Product Safety Group. He was one of Volkswagen's liaisons between the regulatory agencies and Volkswagen. Martin Winterkorn became CEO in 2007. Prior to that, he was chairman of the board of management of the Volkswagen Group subsidiary Audi. The fraud could have potentially been avoided in many ways. One way would be by management setting a better tone at the top. When management is okay with deceitful behavior, that behavior often flows to the workers. Also, in cultures of openness and transparency, in which people feel secure enough to speak up and ask hard questions, people are more productive, innovative, and safe. We know that flatter hierarchies encourage trust and openness, and we know that trust is more efficient than oversight. One more way fraud could have been avoided would be if they would have had a whistleblowing system. Plenty of engineers knew about the dangers of the emissions and did not speak. One lesson learned is that it is important to ensure that your board of directors is diverse in more than just age and gender. Companies should consider diversity in expertise and thought. The need to create guidelines for the qualifications and experience board members should have is also important. Another lesson learned is the need to develop comprehensive ethics and conflict of interest guidelines. Companies should require disclosures from their board for any actual or perceived conflicts, then act on those conflicts, recusing board members from discussions and votes on issues as required. One more lesson learned is that corporations must recognize their social responsibility in the markets they serve. Those who do the right thing and are responsible in both their messaging and actions will maintain the approbation of their customers. Those who ignore their corporate responsibility risk alienating large portions of their customer base, damaging their brand. Nothing guarantees that a market will stay loyal when the company behaves badly. The fraud could have potentially been avoided in many ways. One way would be by management setting a better tone at the top. When management is okay with deceitful behavior, that behavior often flows to the workers. Also, in cultures of openness and transparency, in which people feel secure enough to speak up and ask hard questions, people are more productive, innovative, and safe. We know that flatter hierarchies encourage trust and openness, and we know that trust is more efficient than oversight. One more way fraud could have been avoided would be if they would have had a whistleblowing system. Plenty of engineers knew about the dangers of the emissions and did not speak. One of the root causes of the scandal at Volkswagen is a lack of internal control over the operations and disclosure of the same. The company did not have an effective whistleblower system that would allow employees to report unethical behavior. Volkswagen currently does have such a program, but it was not approved by top management of the Audi division and Volkswagen's American until late 2017. The Volkswagen fraud exposed Volkswagen to huge tangible and intangible risks. The consequences significantly depleted tangible financial capital of over $30 billion in cost and a significant drop in stock price. Social and relationship capital was also affected by a diminishing brand name and trust. It also damaged stakeholders' relations. Also, a $15 billion settlement was agreed upon in 2017, with the United States requiring Volkswagen to repurchase dirty diesel cars sold in the country or give cash payments to the owners if they would prefer to have their vehicles fixed. Rigging pollution results will not only cost the automaker greatly in terms of legal fines, but also investor and customer backlash, class action lawsuits, possible criminal investigation, and loss of future sales. But the major ill effects of this scandal could spill over to other automakers, particularly Germans who make cars that run on diesel, and have a broader impact on the automotive industry.